All right, prepping for the UPSC, especially when you've got international relations as your optional.
Oh, tell me about it.
Can feel like you're drowning in a sea in theories, right? But
Absolutely.
don't worry, today we're going to dive deep into one of the big ones,
Okay.
John Rawls' theory of justice,
All right.
and we're going to get clear, engaging, and actually relevant to acing that exam.
Okay.
So to set the stage, Rawls takes this idea, this classic idea of a social contract,
Yeah.
the idea that we all agree to live together under certain rules.
Right, right.
And he uses that as a foundation to build his theory of what makes a society truly just.
What's brilliant about Rawls is how he actually makes this idea practical, you
Yeah.
know? He gives us a way to actually think through these big questions.
Okay, so it's not just some abstract philosophy, it's something we can actually use.
Exactly.
And for all of us who are fascinated by international relations,
Yes.
this isn't just about domestic politics. This applies to the global stage as well.
Right. You can see these ideas of fairness and equality play out in everything from international treaties to the way nations interact with each other.
So how does he do it? How does he bring these ideas to life?
He uses this fascinating thought experiment.
Oh, I love a good thought experiment.
It's called the original position.
Original position. Okay, I'm intrigued. Walk me through this.
So imagine you're sitting down
Okay,
to design a brand new society from scratch.
all right, I'm with you.
But here's the catch. You're behind a veil of ignorance.
Veil of ignorance sounds a little dramatic, but I'm listening.
It means you have absolutely no idea where you'll end up in this new society.
Okay.
Rich or poor,
Oh, wow.
powerful or marginalized.
Got it.
You name it, it's all hidden from you.
Interesting. So you could end up anywhere.
Exactly.
Suddenly, those decisions about how the society works feel a lot more high stakes.
That's the whole point. Rawls is forcing us to think, if I could end up anywhere in this system, what kind of world would I want to live in?
I see. So it forces you to think about fairness from every angle.
It pushes us towards a system that's impartial
Okay.
and ultimately fair.
A system where we'd feel safe and protected regardless of our position.
Exactly.
Well, I see why this is a favorite for UPSC essays.
Oh, yeah.
It's a brilliant way to analyze those complex questions about global justice and power dynamics.
It really makes you think about how we structure things on a global level.
So in this original position, what kind of society does Rawls believe people would actually choose?
That's where his famous two principles of justice come in.
Okay, two principles. Lay them on me.
The first one, and maybe the most straightforward, is the principle of liberty.
Okay, liberty, freedom. Everyone wants that, right? But how does Rawls define this in a way that makes sense for international relations?
He argues for the maximum equal liberty for all,
Okay.
compatible with similar liberty for others.
So my freedom can't infringe on yours.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance.
So things like what? Freedom of speech, freedom of assembly,
Excellent.
freedom from arbitrary arrest.
All the
These are huge for international relations.
They are the foundation of so many human rights treaties and international laws.
It's about setting those basic standards for how states treat their citizens
Right.
and how they interact with each other on the global stage.
Exactly.
Okay, that's principle number one, liberty. I'm with you so far.
Great.
But I have a feeling the second principle is where things get a bit more interesting.
You got it.
What's this second principle all about?
Equality.
Equality, okay.
But it's not just about everyone being equal before the law. It's
All right.
about making sure everyone has a genuine shot at a good life.
Ah, I see. Regardless of their background, where they come from.
Precisely.
Now that's a concept that gets debated endlessly in international relations.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look around. We see such vast inequalities between different nations.
It's a huge challenge.
How does Rawls address this?
He breaks this second principle down into two parts.
Okay, two parts to equality. All right, let's hear it.
The first is fair equality of opportunity.
Fair equality of opportunity. I like the sound of that.
Think about it. Do people in every country have the same access to education,
Right.
healthcare,
Yeah.
economic resources?
Those are fundamental.
And what about historical factors?
Oh, like colonialism.
Exactly. Do those continue to disadvantage certain nations?
These are questions that are at the heart of so many discussions in international relations.
They are.
Development, global justice. It makes you wonder if true equality of opportunity is even achievable.
It's a tough question, but one that Rawls forces us to confront.
Okay, so that's part one of equality, fair equality of opportunity.
Right.
But he doesn't stop there, does he?
Nope, there's more to it.
He takes it a step further with this idea.
It's often called the difference principle.
This is the one I've been waiting for. The difference principle It's a bit controversial.
It can be.
I've heard it described as allowing inequality as long as it benefits the least advantaged.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
That seems a bit counterintuitive, doesn't it?
It's definitely a concept that challenges us to think differently about justice.
So how does it actually work?
Rawls argues that any inequality in a society is only justified if it benefits the least advantaged.
So it's not about justifying extreme wealth.
No.
Or ignoring the need for redistribution.
Not at all.
But it's about finding ways to create a system where, even if there are differences,
yes,
those differences actually work to lift up those who are struggling the most.
That's the idea. Rawls is asking us to consider whether a system like that might actually be more just.
I see how this could be a powerful argument for things like policies aimed at reducing global poverty.
It definitely has implications for how we approach global development.
But wouldn't states always be tempted to prioritize their own citizens
That's a great...
over the needs of the globally disadvantaged?
That's a key criticism of Rawls, the idea that his theory is too idealistic.
All right, it's a nice idea, but can it actually be implemented in a world where power and self-interest so often seem to rule?
That's what we're going to explore in the next part of our deep dive.
I can't wait. This is already making me think about international relations in a whole new light.
That's what we're here for.
We're not just memorizing a theory, we're grappling with those big questions, the ones that are going to come up with those UPSC essays.
Exactly, and in your future careers as diplomats.
And speaking of those criticisms, that's where we'll pick up in part 2.
We're going to dive into whether Rawls, even with his focus on individual liberty and equality, truly gives us a framework for global justice.
Sounds fascinating. I can't wait to explore that further.
It's going to be a good one.
Listeners, if you're finding this deep dive helpful,
especially for your UPSC prep,
don't forget to hit that like button.
And subscribe to our channel for more insightful content.
We'll be back with part 2 before you know it.
See you soon.
Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deeper into John Rawls' theory of justice.
And in this part,
we're going to get a little bit critical.
Oh, yeah.
Because, let's be honest, no theory is perfect.
Right.
And understanding those limitations, those criticisms of Rawls, that's just as important as grasping those core principles.
Absolutely. Especially for those of you prepping for the UPSC.
Right. The examiners love to see that you can engage with different perspectives, analyze weaknesses.
It shows a deeper understanding of the theory.
And that's what really sets you apart in those essays.
Exactly.
So let's dig into some of those criticisms.
All right.
What are some of the major arguments against applying Rawls' theory to international relations?
Well, one of the biggest criticisms is that Rawls is just too idealistic.
Okay. Too idealistic. I've heard that before.
His principles, especially that difference principle, they seem almost impossible to implement in the real world of global politics.
I could see that.
You know, where national interest and power dynamics often take center stage.
Right. We're talking about a system of sovereign states.
Exactly.
Each one looking out for themselves.
Yeah.
Often competing for resources, for influence.
It's a complex landscape.
It's hard to imagine them prioritizing global equality or the needs of the most disadvantaged on a global scale.
Realist thinkers would argue that states are mainly driven by self-preservation and the pursuit of power.
So where does that leave Rawls? I mean, is his theory just irrelevant in this messy world of international relations?
Well, I don't think we need to throw Rawls out completely.
Okay.
Remember, his theory is meant to be a framework for thinking about justice.
A starting point.
Exactly. It's not a blueprint that we can just impose on the world.
Okay, so it's more like a lens through which we can examine global issues, see where things fall short of those ideals, and maybe even come up with ways to make the system a bit fairer, even if we can't achieve perfect justice.
Exactly, even if states aren't always going to act purely out of altruism.
Right.
Rawls' principles can still serve as a guide, as a set of aspirational goals.
Cool to strive for.
Exactly, in international relations.
So when countries negotiate treaties, participate in international organizations.
Absolutely.
Engage in development assistance.
Those principles of liberty, equality, and fairness can inform those actions.
And hopefully shape a more just global order.
That's the hope.
But what about those critics who say Rawls focuses too much on individual rights and liberties?
Okay, I see where you're going.
Don't things like community, cultural values, collective rights also matter?
Of course. especially in international relations.
Right, where we're dealing with such a diversity of cultures and societies.
Communitarian thinkers would argue that Rawls' emphasis on individual autonomy neglects the importance of social and cultural contexts.
Right, the things that shape our values and identities.
Exactly.
And that's something we, as aspiring Indian diplomats, need to be particularly sensitive to.
Absolutely. India itself is incredibly diverse.
So many different cultures and traditions.
Rawls himself acknowledged that his theory is rooted in Western liberal thought and may not fully capture the nuances of non-Western conceptions of justice.
So how do we reconcile these seemingly opposing ideas?
That's the challenge.
How do we promote individual rights while respecting cultural differences?
Just a delicate balance.
How do we build a more just and equitable international order without imposing a single universal set of values on the entire world?
It's a tough question.
It is a tough one.
But engaging with these different perspectives, these criticisms of Rawls, it's a crucial step.
In developing a more nuanced understanding of global justice.
It pushes us to think critically about the relationship between individual rights and collective responsibilities.
Right.
About the limits of universalism.
Okay.
About the need for dialogue and compromise in a world of diverse values and interests.
It's definitely making me rethink some of my assumptions.
Good, that's what we want.
And I think this is where Rawls' real value lies.
Okay, tell me more.
Not as a set of fixed rules,
right,
but as a framework that forces us to ask those tough questions.
Yeah.
To engage in those debates.
Absolutely.
And to come up with our own answers.
You got it.
Especially for those of you prepping for the UPSC.
Yes.
Remember, it's not about simply regurgitating Rawls' theory.
Right.
It's about demonstrating that you can critically engage with it.
Exactly.
Understand its strengths and weaknesses.
Yes.
And apply it to real-world situations.
That's what will make your essay stand out.
This has been an eye-opening discussion.
I'm glad to hear it.
I'm already seeing how understanding those criticisms adds so much depth to our analysis.
It's all about those different perspectives.
But before we wrap up part 2, I'm curious, how can we connect all of this to current events?
Okay.
To those specific challenges that India and the world are facing today?
That's a great question, and that's exactly what we're going to explore in part 3.
Perfect. We'll explore how Rawls' theory, even with its limitations, can help us make sense of contemporary issues. And inform India's approach to global governance.
It's going to be a fascinating discussion.
This is getting more and more fascinating. Listeners, we'll be right back with the final part of our Rawls deep dive.
We'll see you soon.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to the final part of our Rawls deep dive.
We've explored his theory.
Dissected those principles. Grappled with the criticism. But now let's bring it all home.
Okay.
How can we actually use this theory to understand what's happening in the world today?
Especially when it comes to India's role on the global stage.
Right, because for all of you aspiring diplomats out there,
absolutely,
this isn't just about acing the UPSC.
No, it's bigger than that.
It's about preparing to represent India. To contribute to policy decisions. To navigate that incredibly complex web of international relations.
That's the real test.
So where does Rawls fit into all of this?
Well, think about some of the major issues that India's dealing with right now.
Okay, give me an example.
The debate about reforming the United Nations Security Council.
Ah, yes, the UNSC.
A classic UPSC hot topic.
Everyone has an opinion on how to make it more representative. More effective in addressing global challenges.
And this is where Rawls can really help us.
Okay, how so?
His principles can be incredibly useful tools
for analyzing those proposed reforms.
Exactly.
Okay, so walk me through this.
Are the proposed reforms expanding the liberty of nations to participate in global decision-making?
Got it.
Are they promoting fair equality of opportunity for countries that have historically been excluded from those positions of power?
It's like we're putting on that Rawlsian veil of ignorance again.
Exactly.
We're designing a global system, not knowing where India will end up. Would we choose a UNSC that's truly fair and just?
Regardless of our own position.
It forces us to think beyond our immediate national interest.
Absolutely.
And this applies to so much more than just the UNSC.
Oh, absolutely.
We can use this lens to look at trade agreements, climate change negotiations, global development initiatives.
Any issue where questions of fairness and justice arise.
So it's not just a tool for analyzing the world. It's a tool for shaping it.
It gives us a framework for working towards a system that's more just for everyone.
A system that reflects India's own commitment to these principles.
Exactly.
This is amazing. I'm starting to see how Rawls can actually help us, as Indian diplomats, make a real difference in the world.
That's what it's all about.
But it's not about finding all the answers, right?
No.
It's about asking the right questions.
Absolutely.
Engaging in thoughtful, principled dialogue.
That's how we move forward.
I feel like this deep dive has given me so much to think about.
I'm glad to hear it.
Not only for my UPSC exam,
right,
but for my future career, for understanding India's role in the world.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep connecting these ideas to the world around you.
And to all of you amazing listeners out there,
yes,
we hope you've enjoyed this Rawls deep dive as much as we have.
It's been a pleasure.
If you found it helpful for your UPSC prep, don't forget to hit that like button.
And subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking content.
Good luck on your journey.
Stay curious.
And keep striving for a more just world.
We'll see you next time.